Good evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, April 21st, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. SVG's active COVID-19 cases now at 38 with 1 hospitalization. The latest update provided by the Ministry of Health on Wednesday evening indicates 4 new PCR and 1 new rapid antigen cases were recorded with a positivity rate of 7.69%. To date, 6,634 recoveries have been recorded with 106 deaths from the viral illness. 70,016 vaccines have been administered to date, including 31,161st dose and 30,299 second dose. Vincentians are being urged to take care of the equipment responsible for monitoring La Soufrière volcano. The appeal comes from Professor Dr. Richard Robertson of the UWI Seismic Research Center, who functioned in the capacity of lead scientist in the 2021 explosive eruption of La Soufrière volcano. Speaking on a program on VC3 last evening, Professor Robertson explained the integral role of these monitoring equipment in detecting beforehand with accuracy that there will be an eruption or other seismic activity.
Equipment and the instrumentation that we use to monitor the volcano is critical in terms of us being able to give warning prior to an eruption. And the reason we were able to do that this time is largely as a result of all that instrumentation that went in. So it's critical that people leave the equipment alone. I believe NEMO is working on it, and we will continue to work on it in terms of building closer linkages with the communities that these instruments sit in, because we want people to feel if a seismic station or GPS station or monitoring station is in your community, you should see this as your station. So therefore, you should be more interested in essentially babysitting it and protecting it and guarding it, so that if some of the people in your community decide that they want to do something bad about it, you would help to protect this. Because NEMO can't be out in the field, and we can't really protect them so completely that they would be invulnerable to human beings with the right attention. So it's critical that they leave it alone. It's critical that communities can start to think of it as part of their protection. It's critical for the protection of St. Grenadines and by extension, everybody in the communities that they reside in. So we would ask the communities to help us in taking care of them and work with us to ensure that the folks in your community that might be thinking of, or outside the community that might be thinking of doing stuff with them, that you will help us to either stop them or catch them if they do anything.
Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Michelle Forbes, who was also on the program last evening, acknowledged that planning for a volcanic eruption is a big task that requires the right team.
And we, recognize the gaps that we need to go forward. So we are looking at reviewing the national plan. We are examining the national system, where how we're looking at some of our emergency support functions, who does what, and is it right, is it right? Is that agency the right fit? How do we get more persons involved? How do we get all of government, all of the private sector involved in disaster risk management? What next? We have to continue to work with the communities. We know some of them are upset. We have to continue to work with the communities, because the government cannot do it alone. Planning for an emergency like the volcano involves a lot of preparedness at the community level and at the individual level. And if one is not ready, it affects the entire national system. So we have to continue, like what the SRC is working on, different components in the community, the whole photo exhibition Dr. Robertson would have spoken about. That's a way of getting the communities engaged in the whole risk management and looking at resilience building within the country. And when we leave, we must say that resilience building begins with each and every one of us, because we each have our part to play within the national disaster systems.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Conservation Fund and Serenity Dive Inc. have successfully completed the first phase of the coral outplanting project in the southern parts of the island. The project, which was launched earlier this year, focused on restoring corals in SVG, mainly within the South Coast Marine Managed Area. Serenity Dive Inc. conducted a coral gardening exercise by outplanting over 800 coral plants. A project officer at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Conservation Fund, Alanda Moses, told SVGTV News the corals are being monitored to determine how well the restoration exercise is going.
Start with what you call fragmentation, which is basically removing parts of successful corals that are already in the ecosystem and placing them on what you call coral trees, which they would stay there and grow over like a year or so. After that, you'll remove them and then what you call outplant them into those areas that are depleted and damaged and so forth. So at this time, they are really monitoring how well those corals are being, how well they are surviving in that environment that they're currently in. So we are monitoring and evaluating that. Currently they are doing okay, so we hope that that continues, and once that is so, that's a good indication that this is something that can really work in restoring our corals here in St. Vincent.
Moses stressed the importance of the work being done by the Conservation Fund in improving the marine health of SVG.
Done a lot of work around the South Coast area to restore damaged corals around that area. So we are working within coastal protection and also land-based protection, terrestrial, the whole works, because we know that it is important and it is critical.
Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel on the radio yesterday highlighted plans by the government for road repairs in West St. George and South Windward. He made specific mention of a piece of road in Belmont, noting that Area Representative Curtis King is concerned about the accessibility of larger vehicles.
I had a visit to the constituencies of West St. George and South Windward. And that is so because of some structures and infrastructure and the road network that is, in those areas that are of concern to the representatives. There is that area in Belmont where a family is doing a house which is close to the road, and of course that with the preparation of the foundation of that house, that it would have come very close to the road and would have created some problems on that road. And so immediately, while Braxa was asked to assist in establishing a concrete wall structure, it is insufficient for what is required. And so Braxa would have to continue to do further repair work so as to stabilize the road in a way that it can be used for the traveling public.
Minister Daniel, who is responsible for transport and works, noted that although there were roads in the constituency of West St. George done previously by the contractor KDL, there are more work to be carried out.
Where KDL would have done in their first phase, they were contracted to do some 11 roads in the first phase and some 12 roads in the second phase. But KDL had some problems with the subcontractors, and there are one or two roads in that constituency, West St. George, which still needs to be done. And we are trying to have the contractor KDL to meet its obligations with the subcontractors, so that we can have the work going again.
The acting Prime Minister said road work will also be carried out in other constituencies as other representatives have been following up on repairs to be done.
In the constituency of West St. George and South Windward as well, that roads have been identified, and equally all of the other representatives in the various constituencies are concerned in terms of the pace to which the works are being done. And so we will meet with the main contractor KDL again to continue to have the discussions as to how we see best we can go forward with this project. Equally in South Windward, of course, there are one or two other roads that we would have visited, and I know that you go into the back of Bible as you go up to Simon, that road, of course, it is indeed terrible. And we were there yesterday looking at it, and of course, to do some work on that road as soon as possible. I know it's not an easy task for Braxa, but the roads have to be accessible to the extent that it is usable to the road users. Of course. And so Simon is one of those areas to which we would have to do some work in that regard.
The Embassy of the Republic of China on Taiwan, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation, will embark on its annual presentation of bursaries under the Taiwanese Human Resource Development Program. The disbursement will take place during 4 ceremonies over the course of 1 week. The first will be held at the SVG Community College tomorrow, Friday, April 22nd, beginning at 1:30 p.m. and will be followed by a similar exercise at the Georgetown Secondary School on Tuesday, April 26th, also beginning at 1:30 p.m. The third set of awards will be distributed at the Central Leeward Secondary School on Thursday, April 28th at 1:30 p.m. with the final presentation ceremony scheduled for the Beckway Seventh-day Adventist Secondary School on Friday, April 29th, commencing at 10:30 a.m. Minister of Education and National Reconciliation Curtis King and Taiwan's ambassador to SVG, His Excellency Peter Shaling Lan, will deliver remarks at the ceremonies. The bursary program, which is now into its 24th year, was launched to provide support to students in St. Vincent and the Grenadines with the necessary light food, transportation, and books. This year, 524 students of primary, secondary, and college levels will benefit from an investment of $320,600 EC dollars. The Taiwan Embassy also manages a tertiary scholarship program through which corps of Ascension students have received fully funded scholarships to pursue undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate studies in Taiwan. Their Royal Highnesses, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, will visit SVG this Saturday as part of Her Majesty's the Queen's Platinum Jubilee year. While here in SVG, the Earl and Countess will meet communities, local entrepreneurs and craftspeople and young people in celebration of the culture and vibrancy of the islands. The Earl of Wessex will meet athletes in training for the Commonwealth Games to be held in Birmingham this summer. Meanwhile, the Countess will speak to women in leadership roles about the community's response to the eruption of La Soufrière volcano. Their Royal Highnesses will also congratulate those who have recently completed their Gold Duke of Edinburgh's award. The Earl and Countess are also expected to visit St. Lucia and Antigua and Barbuda. Their visit to this part of the region will run from Friday, April 22nd to Thursday, April 28, 2022. A regular evening of cooking and cleaning ended in a disaster for a Kingston Hill man on Wednesday evening after his home was razed to the ground. Ian Dexter Saunders, age 52, lost all of his possessions after a fire engulfed the 2-bedroom wood and concrete structure where he lived for the past 20 years. Saunders told SVGTV News that he had prepared a meal on an outside pot, and after it was finished, he ensured that the fire was out. He went to the other side of the property to begin cleaning, and that is when he saw the house was burning.
But I don't know what's going on. I know I see the fire stifle for leave down the car, so careless and normally does cook and out the fire in the back. I don't know get to the house, and it is a little distance away from the kitchen. I properly me look up now, curious look up and we properly so I see the whole back in fire, whole kitchen. I try run up and think what all man could do is run pull out the main plug down by the meter with the column. We pull it out. We couldn't really grab nothing so. Me say, well now, let me just leave everything. Cause no water again did it. If water being there, might take a chance, but with the pipe there, look at the pipe there all over it. And the fire don't blaze all around them side.
Quick action from residents prevented the fire from spreading to other neighboring houses until the fire brigade arrived. Saunders said he was disheartened knowing that there was nothing he could do to save his home.
So me just give up. Yeah, me just give up and just go and just watch the burn. You know when the fire starting all the time, I'd have done work on it because that is me. And I'm mind telling me, go eat now, I don't cook since morning, go eat something, you done 2, 3 o'clock. But that is me, sometimes my man go just cook and in the appetite. I go just steady walk until later nowadays we go feel a little eatish. But while talking that, when I did down, I hear the puppy and I look out, big fire. So look what I do, boy.
The mother of Simonia De Silva, the 23-year-old Fair Hall resident who was stabbed to death almost 5 years ago, is not satisfied with the sentence imposed on the 3 girls who pleaded guilty to manslaughter after the charge of murder was reduced. De Silva was killed in front of a yard on September 3rd, 2017, when a group of girls accosted her and her family members after they arrived home from an outing. Last week, Alanda Hudson of Camden Park, Taylor Medford of Belmont, and Tunisia Olivier of Chapman's was sentenced to 7 and 9 years in prison. Speaking to SVGTV News, Beverly De Silva said she is very upset about the sentence handed down by Justice Brian Cottle, noting that a lot of lies were spewed during the trial.
Well, I feel bad. I wanted to cry, but I just hold it in. And it's like when I reach home, I do it. Because it come like now, my daughter just go down the drain. They're saying something else different again. The saying is my daughter, Christelle, is who gives my deceased daughter the knife. And she end up and get it away. They wanted to fight. But I tell my children and them, come, let we go home. And it's going home. We was going home now. And then they come and follow me. I just feel hurt. You understand? I ain't get my justice there, to be truthful.
De Silva said what occurred on the night of September 3rd, 2017 is still fresh in her mind, and she does not believe that she could ever find it in her heart to forgive the persons who took her daughter's life.
The one we get the 5 years now, she wrote, because the lawyer was reading it out to the magistrate, saying it's not a day goes by she don't think about what she did. And if we could find a place to forgive she, and she will like to apologize to us. But no, sir, that not go work. To see we didn't trouble them. It's home we come. And not even one of them could have said, boy, let we go back. Let we turn back. Yeah. So she asking for forgiveness, but I will die with that in my heart, because you know why? Even the daughter come out, they could still see the daughter, but I cannot see mine.
Silva said she had planned to seek legal advice to appeal the sentence given to the trio, but the family has not yet decided on that.